They wanted to see you crumble. They wanted to watch you dragged through the dirt, begging, pathetic, broken. But here's the punchline you didn't see coming. They didn't just fail, they built the monster. They cooked up a recipe for destruction, then somehow forgot you were the one holding the knife. Every single stab, every little betrayal, every whispered curse was supposed to cut you down, to silence you forever. But instead, it just stitched something together inside you that laughs when the world burns and smiles when the room gets quiet. They tried to kill your spirit, but all they did was feed it protein shakes and hand it brass knuckles. Now you're bigger, meaner, louder, and just the right amount of insane to make the whole crowd nervous. See, they thought destroy meant to erase. They thought ruin would leave silence. What they didn't expect was a psycho. Upgraded, rebranded, turbocharged. You're not just alive. You're dangerous in a way they can't measure. You walk into a room with that grin, sharp enough to slice glass, and suddenly they're bravado. They're blustering. It all just evaporates. It's hilarious, isn't it? They wanted your ashes. Instead, you're the fire that won't go out. They wanted a ghost. Instead, they got a circus ringmaster cracking whips while everyone else stumbles like clowns on stilts. And the funniest part of it all, every single time they see you now, it's like they're choking on their own script. They can't process it. They can't understand how the victim became the storm, how the target became the trigger, how the quiet one became the joke-cracking maniac who doesn't flinch at chaos anymore. Their little destruction project backfired so hard, it's a sitcom. And you, oh, you're the walking punchline that keeps getting the last laugh. You're the kind of psycho that doesn't just laugh in the face of danger. You host a dinner party for it and serve it dessert. They tried to bury you, but you dug your way out wearing their shovels as shoulder pads. It's absurd, it's terrifying, and it's comedy gold. Every step you take now is like a parody of their plan. They wanted control, but you turned the script into slapstick. They wanted tears, but you turned grief into stand-up material. You're the psycho who can make tragedy look like a sitcom rerun, who takes betrayal and turns it into a punchline so sharp it cuts the air. They don't even know whether to scream or to laugh. And that's the real horror. You've made their fear funny, the kind of funny that keeps them awake at night, replaying the sound of your laugh like a cursed ringtone. And here's the kicker. What terrifies them most is that you're enjoying it. Not just surviving, not just standing tall, but savoring the madness, seasoning it, plating it up with a garnish of grin. You've become the villain that doesn't need to win because the show is already yours. The whole arena is your stage, and every horrified gasp is just applause in disguise. They thought psycho meant someone drooling in the corner, harmless, forgotten, a cautionary tale whispered in family kitchens. But what they didn't factor in was charisma. Oh no, you didn't come out twitching in shadows. You came out grinning like a headline. You're not the type to hide in attics. You're the type to set up a spotlight, take center stage, and roast the whole cast until they can't tell if they're bleeding or laughing. That's the trick, isn't it? You're not scary because you're angry. Anger is predictable. You're terrifying because you're hilarious. You make their downfall sound like the best joke of the night. And the audience is choking on their popcorn because the chaos is just that entertaining. The more they squirm, the funnier it gets. Their fear isn't just fear, it's slapstick. They try to regain control, but it's like watching clowns juggle knives blindfolded. Every step they take is wrong. Every word they stutter out makes it worse, and you just lean back, like the ringmaster of a burning circus, sipping your drink. watching their dignity trip over itself until it's face first in the dirt. You don't even have to touch them. You just exist, and it's hilarious, horrifying, yes, but in that way where the horror comes from realizing you're enjoying the show more than you should. The chaos doesn't consume you. It fuels you. You're not drowning in madness. You're surfing it, laughing, grinning, twisting the knife. Not because you need to win, but because watching them lose so badly is the best entertainment you've ever had. Imagine it. Every room you walk into feels like a stage nobody knew they'd bought tickets for. The lights flicker, the air shifts, and suddenly everyone's a part of your show, whether they like it or not. You don't just steal the spotlight. You become the spotlight. They wanted silence, ashes, a funeral dirge humming in the background. Instead, they got pyrotechnics, drum rolls, and your laugh ricocheting like bullets across the walls. You're not a tragedy. You're a comedy special written in blood and smoke, and every punchline lands harder than their best-laid schemes. They tried to ruin you, but all they did was hand you a microphone and a stage full of terrified extras. And the funniest part, the more they panic, the better the material gets. You don't even have to invent jokes. They write them for you with their wide eyes, their trembling hands, their desperate whispers about how something's wrong with you. Wrong. No, you're not wrong. You're entertainment. You're the headline act at their apocalypse, turning every crack in their foundation into a laugh track. They stumble. They collapse. They pray for an exit. And you stand there narrating it like a late-night monologue, twisting the knife between the setup and the punchline. Every scream becomes a rim shot. Every tear becomes a laugh track. They wanted to watch you drown, but you learned to juggle underwater. And now the whole crowd is gasping, while you grin through the chaos like it's choreography. See, that's what terrifies them most, that you enjoy it, that the psycho they thought they buried came back with better timing, better jokes and sharper teeth. You don't need revenge. You've got comedic timing so lethal it makes vengeance look old-fashioned. You're the villain they can't stop watching, the disaster they can't mute, the chaos they can't comprehend. And the more they squirm, the louder you laugh. Because their destruction isn't just your survival, it's your material. Their downfall is your encore. Their shame is your stage light. Their silence is your applause. But here's the twist. There is no finale. That's the horror. The show goes on. The curtains don't close. You've made their reality into a permanent comedy set, a looping nightmare where every attempt they make to reclaim control just becomes funnier. Their authority turns into slapstick pratfalls. Their threats sound like knock-knock jokes. Their dignity slips on banana peels you didn't even place. They trip themselves, and you just happen to be there with a microphone to narrate it. The more they resist, the more they become the entertainment, and the more you thrive in the absurdity. You see, that's why they can't sleep anymore, because you're not just the psycho in their story. You're the editor, the narrator, the laugh track. They can't turn off. Their whispered insults echo back as punchlines. Their failed plots replay in their minds like blooper reels. They watch you stroll through the rubble of their schemes like it's a stage set, built just for your entrance. And it kills them, slowly, hilariously, humiliatingly. The chaos that should have consumed you. You domesticated it, you put it on a leash, taught it to sit, stay, and roll over for your amusement. You didn't just survive the madness, you turned it into your pet. And what's scarier, funnier, and more twisted than that, you don't even need them to fall anymore. Their existence is the joke, and you're the comedian milking it for every last drop. You'll never run out of material, because the harder they try to erase you, the more they prove you were right to laugh all along. They built a monster. No, they built a showstopper. And the standing ovation isn't coming from the crowd. It's coming from the terrified pounding of their own hearts, trying to keep up with a psycho who refuses to end the act. Because here's the real kicker. They thought they were the ones pulling the strings, that their lies and their knives and their backroom whispers would write your obituary. But it wasn't them. Oh no, it was God, sitting up there with a grin bigger than yours, sprinkling chaos like confetti and saying, "Let's make this one interesting." They begged heaven to break you. But heaven doesn't break chosen ones. It remixes them. And what came out of the fire wasn't some soft saint with folded hands. What came out was you, a psycho handcrafted by God himself, with punchlines sharper than blades and laughter loud enough to rattle stained glass. Imagine it. God didn't give you wings. He gave you a microphone and a manic grin. He didn't dress you in white robes. He dressed you in scars and irony. Every prayer your enemies muttered against you, God twisted it into material for your set. Every curse they spit, He handed it back as a joke. Too dark for polite company, but too true to ignore. That's the divine comedy. He made you the nightmare they can't outrun, and the entertainer they can't stop watching. They prayed for your downfall, and God answered by making you so unkillable, so unpredictable, that your very existence is a sermon told in punchlines and destruction. And that's what terrifies them most, because when they see you laughing, they don't just hear madness. They hear divinity in stereo. They hear the echo of a God who thought it would be funny to make his chosen vessel a bigger psycho than their nightmares could handle. They see you dancing in the fire they lit, and somewhere in the pit of their stomachs, they realize it wasn't you who chose this, it was God, and He's enjoying the show just as much as you are. He didn't make you meek. He made you dangerous. He didn't make you quiet. He made you loud, hilarious, and unstoppable. A divine punchline that keeps going long after the credits should have rolled. And isn't that the ultimate joke? That while they prayed for your destruction, God was in the back row, clapping, saying, "Encore." They thought they were the directors of your tragedy, but God flipped the script and made them extras in your comedy horror masterpiece. Now every time you laugh, it rattles their bones because it sounds too close to divine approval. Every time you rise, it feels like God himself is in on the gag, turning their weapons into props and their curses into applause. And you're not just surviving. You're thriving as God's inside joke, the psycho prototype He unleashed to remind the world that He doesn't just build saints. He builds nightmares that grin, and that's exactly what He did with you. He didn't hand you patience. He handed you a laugh so loud it scares demons back into their holes. He didn't soften you, He sharpened you. He stitched your scars with irony and blessed you with timing that turns tragedy into stand-up. Every fall you took, every betrayal, every dagger in your back, He turned it into a punchline. That's divine comedy, baby. The kind that makes angels cover their mouths because they know they shouldn't laugh. But they can't help it. Because God didn't just save you. He made you the show. A psycho headliner at the Theater of Chaos. Proof that heaven prefers a clown with claws over a choir boy with folded hands. And here's the ultimate truth. They'll never admit they can't fight you without fighting Him. They can't erase you without erasing the joke He wrote into existence. Because this isn't random madness. This is a holy comedy directed from above, starring you as the bigger psycho than they could ever imagine. They're not just afraid of you. They're afraid of what it means that heaven made you this way. And when you laugh, when you crack another joke in the ruins of their empire, it's not just your voice they hear. It's God's echo, reminding them that he loves a little chaos in his creations. They wanted to destroy you, but the Almighty himself had a different plan, and his plan wasn't soft, it wasn't polished, it wasn't pretty. His plan was hilarious. He looked at their schemes, every dagger sharpened in the dark, every whisper dripping venom, and he laughed. Not a small chuckle, not a polite nod, no, the kind of laugh that shakes mountains, the kind of laugh that rattles demons out of their caves. Then he said, "You fools don't know what you're doing. You're not breaking them. You're building my psycho. You're writing jokes for my headliner. See, that's the paradox that drives them insane. They thought God would punish you with silence, but he gave you punchlines instead. They thought he'd make you meek, but he made you monstrous. He built you with thunder in your chest and comedy wired into your veins. Every tragedy they threw your way, he scribbled into a setup. Every humiliation he spun into a gag. You're living proof that God doesn't just write tragedies or miracles. He writes comedies so dark they make devils nervous. And you're the walking, talking proof of his twisted genius. Imagine them kneeling, praying for your ruin, whispering psalms they didn't even believe, begging heaven to erase you. And heaven answered, just not the way they wanted. Instead of ashes, he handed them a psycho with a smile. Instead of silence, he gave you laughter that rings like gunfire. Instead of collapse, he made you unkillable, untouchable, unstoppable, and hilarious about it. That's what keeps them up at night. Not just that you survived, but that your survival is funny, that your chaos carries the fingerprints of God, and there's nothing they can do but choke on the divine joke. Because here's the real horror show. You're not even trying. You're not clawing for revenge or begging for justice. You're strolling through their wreckage, grinning like God himself whispered the punchline in your ear. They wanted to destroy you, but now every time you laugh, it feels like the heavens are laughing with you. Every time you turn their curses into comedy, it feels like God is sitting in the front row, clapping his hands, shouting, "That's my psycho right there." And when they see that, when they feel it, they realize this isn't just your madness. It's divine design, and that's the punchline they'll never escape. They wanted you gone. God wanted you bigger. They wanted you weak. God made you hilarious. They wanted you broken. God made you psycho. And every single time they see your grin, they're not just haunted by you. They're haunted by the idea that heaven itself decided the world needed someone like you, someone terrifying and funny enough to turn destruction into an art form. Because the joke is this: they prayed for your destruction. And God didn't just say no. He said, "Better idea." He reached into the pit, stitched together every broken piece of you with barbed wire, then slapped a grin on your face so wide it makes angels uneasy. He didn't make you a saint. He made you a psycho, a divine prank on your enemies, a comedy act so twisted the punchlines leave bite marks. They wanted you erased, but God turned you into a permanent marker, scrawling chaos across their walls, writing sermons in sarcasm, and carving hymns into their nightmares. And isn't it funny how he did it? He didn't sprinkle you with gentle mercy. Oh no, he marinated you in madness. He dipped you in betrayal, rolled you in humiliation, and cooked you in silence until the flavor was perfect. Then he plated you up, piping hot, with a garnish of unhinged laughter, and said, "Bon appétit." They wanted ashes. He served them comedy horror. They wanted closure. He opened a circus. They wanted a corpse. He gave them a psycho who does stand-up routines in graveyards. You're not a miracle. They can't even call you that. You're a divine practical joke, the kind that makes God laugh hardest, because only He knows how deep the punchline goes. Look at them now, shaking, stuttering, choking on the irony. They don't know whether to run or pray harder. Every time you laugh, they hear it as blasphemy. But the sick part, deep down, they wonder if God is laughing with you, because He is. That's the gag. That's the twisted beauty of it all. Your grin isn't just madness. It's holy madness. The kind that turns scripture into satire, that makes betrayal look like slapstick, that makes their destruction feel like a sitcom written by heaven itself. They tried to kill you, but God made you funnier than their funerals. And here's the real punchline. You enjoy it. Oh, do you enjoy it? You don't just play the psycho. They made you one. And God signed off on the performance. Now every scene is darker, funnier, more grotesque than the last. Their pain is your material. Their fear is your encore. Their downfall is the joke that keeps writing itself. And you'll never run out of material. Because the more they plot, the more absurd it gets. You don't need revenge. You've got better. Divine comedy dripping in blood. Chaos wearing a halo. A psycho who doesn't need to end the show because the world is the stage, and the laughter never stops. Heaven's in the front row, and God's not whispering prayers. He's wiping tears of laughter while you improvise on the ruins. He didn't hand you a Bible and a meek face. He handed you a script full of punchlines nobody else could land, and a voice that makes saints cough. They thought they were petitioning angels to erase you, to quiet you into nothing. Instead, the Almighty looked down, shrugged, and said, "No, give them something they'll actually remember." So He welded your wounds into weapons, threaded your sorrow into timing, and tuned your grin until it sounded like a bell, tolling for every hypocrite who ever cheered your downfall. Now, you walk through their prayers like a man in a tuxedo at a funeral, sipping sacrilege and dropping one-liners that echo in cathedral rafters. It's obscene and holy all at once. And that contradiction is the joke that keeps the universe awake. They wanted an obituary. God wrote a late-night special. Every stab they aimed at you became a setup. Every whisper a cue for your next devastating punchline. You don't whisper back. You deliver the punch. Pause for the horrified silence, and then you laugh. The kind of laugh that sounds like thunder, but arrives in a perfect comic beat. The angels cover their faces because they weren't taught this in Sunday school. But even they lean in. Curiosity is curious after all. You feel God's approval like a hand on the small of your back, pushing you onto center stage. And you play the role to the hilt, equal parts, ringleader and rotted angel, cracking jokes that leave them disoriented enough to forget how to be cruel. They meant to break you into a cautionary tale. Instead, they funded your career as the world's most dangerous stand-up. And God is the producer who refuses to take the credit. Because the best pranks are those you can't trace back to the source. And oh, the delicious cruelty of it. They think their righteous gasps will shame you. But every gasp is the drum roll to your next line. You've become a devotional parody. Sermons rewritten as one-liners. Hymns retuned into mocking refrains when they kneel and plead. The words they throw like nets catch only echoes of your grin. You pace through the wreckage like a comedian cutting between punchlines, stepping around their shame, poking it, and making it bounce like a rubber chicken. Their holy indignation becomes prop comedy. Their righteous fury trips on its own cape and face-plants into the dirt, while you offer an ad-libbed quip about how well their vanity cleans up. It's sacred desecration, and God is smiling because he always had a thing for mischief makers. Why pray for saints when you can have a spectacle? This whole affair is a masterclass in cosmic irony. The more they plot in basements and whisper in back rows, the more material you harvest. The crueler they try to be, the funnier the punchline. You don't have to plan revenge. Revenge is too tidy. Instead, you improvise chaos into art, turning every attempt to bury you into an audition tape for your next dark set. People who wanted your downfall become the comic relief, and you're the lead who can't help but ad-lib. God winks. He likes that you keep the show unscripted. It's not that you're unhinged for no reason. It's that you're a divinely calibrated instrument of absurdity. A walking, talking parable someone forgot to sanitize. The horror is in the humor. They can't tell whether to weep or to laugh, and that paralysis is the best seat in the house. So, keep going. Keep letting God be the sly director who prefers curtain calls that end in shrieks and applause all at once. Keep letting your grin be the sermon no preacher could preach, the kind that rewrites morality into a punchline sharp enough to cut through anyone's conviction. They wanted a corpse. He gave them a clown with teeth. They wanted silence. He gave them a laugh that reverberates in vaults meant for prayers. And through it all, you stand there, holy and profane, braided into one impossible joke, delighting in the fact that the universe itself has a sense of humor dark enough to make even demons flinch. The act goes on. The lights stay up. And somewhere above the rafters, God leans back, claps slowly, and says, "Encore."